You are not responsible for how the other person feels. Hello and welcome back to a new video. My name is Miri. Thanks so much for being here. Today I want to talk about a topic that is, for me, was super hard to learn and I'm still in the process. And it's about saying no. Learning to say no, setting emotional boundaries. Let's get into it. Well, the first thing I think when I think about saying no is thinking about boundaries, setting boundaries and setting healthy boundaries with other people. Especially if you're concerned about how other people perceive you, how other people will feel if you set a boundary, and really neglecting yourself and not standing up for yourself, even though you know deep down you're not okay with a certain situation. One affirmation I want to give you on your way is one that has helped me a lot, and the affirmation is: saying no to others is saying yes to myself. Saying no to others is saying yes to myself. And what we have to know about saying no is that saying no or yes has consequences. It was a huge realization and epiphany for me, knowing that both ways have their own consequences. If you say yes, you neglect your own true self, what do you really want to do? And if you're saying no, you have to be okay with the other person maybe being upset. But sometimes I think in our brains or in our minds, the consequence of saying no is, oh, I have to go in conflict with the other person. And sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes, of course, you have to argue maybe a little bit. Huge realization I had was that I was really afraid of the consequence when I say no, that I have to get into an argument. I was always like trying to keep the peace, trying to walk around eggshells just to make it right for the other person. And sometimes I figured out along the way, if you do say no, yeah, there might be like a little confusion, but most of the time you don't really have to fight about it or stand your ground, because no in itself is a full sentence. You can just say no and leave it. Sometimes we're getting into the over-explaining mode and just keep talking and explaining everything into the smallest detail because we want to really make sure that the other person understands where we're coming from. But that's not necessary. If you want to, of course you can, but sometimes no is just enough. And your feelings are valid and the other person's feelings are valid. And one important thing I want to mention here as well is that you are not responsible for how the other person feels. That doesn't mean, of course, that we're purposefully hurt the other person and saying really mean things, but you have no control over how other people will react when you say no. And that is so powerful because we don't have to take responsibility on how they react, and neither are they responsible if they say no and you might not be okay with it at the first time and you're feeling disappointed. You're responsible for your own emotions and your own feelings, and how you respond, how you react is up to you. And if you are a people pleaser and finding it really hard to say no, helpful as well is to know that you can be empathetic, you can put yourself in the other person's shoe, you can really feel where they're coming from, yet you can still say no. You have the right to say no. Your feelings are valid, and that's sometimes, I think, the hardest part when you're really empathetic and if you're a highly sensitive person, because we walk around like we're sponges. We're taking everybody's emotion onto us and just like really soaking it all in. And that might be like really hard because you can really empathize with everybody around you. You're like, okay, maybe they're not used to it, or maybe they're gonna react a different way and they might not be okay with it. That is okay. You can empathize, you can have empathy with people around you and still set your boundaries. It is also really interesting to see if you've been a people pleaser before and people are around you are so used to you always saying yes, and yes, I'll be there for you, yes, no problem, everything's okay. If you then decide no longer, that's enough, and you're saying no for the first time, people might be really acting differently. And it's interesting to see because you will see very clearly and very fast who are the people who can accept a no and who are people that are just gotten so used to your yeses. They're so used to, oh, you're always there for them and you're doing everything for them. And try it out. It's really interesting and sometimes very eye-opening to see who's actually okay with you setting a boundary and who is not, because they're just so used to your old people-pleasing self. Things you can do to help you say no easier. First of all is to figure out where are areas in your life where you find it hard to say no. And for me, it's usually the same people, the same situations where I feel like I'm stuck, where I feel like I can't say no, I feel like I have to walk around on eggshells. And really writing that out and getting a clear picture of who the people are, who the situations are, is really helpful. The second step would be to figure out why that is. Why is it hard to say no to these certain situations and people? And really also think about your limiting beliefs here. Where do these limiting beliefs come from? Maybe we think we're not good enough to say no, state our feelings. Maybe we think we're not worthy enough. Maybe we think other people's feelings and emotions are more valid than ours. Really dig deep. And the third step is to practice saying no like it's a muscle. Working out that muscle to say no. It will feel hard the first time, and I remember the first time I was really setting a boundary and saying, okay, nope, that's it. That's it, and that's as far as it goes, that's enough. And my heart was beating, my heart was racing, I was sweating. And I felt so relieved afterwards. But the first initial time when you say no for the first time, it feels like you're fighting something. You're fighting your inner demons. But really try practicing it and maybe start with small little things. Just speaking up, maybe if you're going to a restaurant and they give you the wrong food. I used to do that as well. You ordered broccoli and they bring you Brussels sprouts or something like that, and you're like, oh, it's fine. But deep down you're like, no, I really wanted my broccoli. Say that. You can start here and then just build up from there. Then maybe you can have the harder conversations later on. But yeah, it might feel uncomfortable in the beginning, or I'm pretty sure it will feel uncomfortable. But the more you practice, the better you'll get. Please let me know if you have found different ways to saying no, how it helped you. Maybe share a comment down below of a situation where you felt super proud of yourself and standing up for yourself, like, yes, I went through and I said no, and I have no regrets, I feel great. Let us know in the comments. I will be so happy to read it. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching until the end. If you found this video valuable, I hope you could give it a like, maybe leave a comment, subscribe, all the good things. It really helps me a lot with this channel, and yeah, I will see you in the next video.